Edo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force has confirmed the killing of 7 persons on Friday during a communal clash between the people of Gbelemonti and Maidoti communities in the Ovia Southwest local government of Edo State, with the police also arresting a member of the Edo State Vigilante group who shot dead and set ablaze a victim he falsely accused of being a thief out of malice due to misunderstanding the vigilante member had with the deceased, just as the new Commissioner of Police, Enekpen Otimenyin, subjects police personnel in the state to retraining. According to Daily Post newspaper, the Edo State Police Command arrested a member of a local vigilante in Benin City for allegedly killing an artisan and setting his corpse ablaze. The public relations officer of the command, Moses Yamu, disclosed this on Sunday in Benin City, according to the news media. Yamu said the suspect was arrested by operatives of the Textile Mill Road Division following a distress call received from members of the public at about 8 a.m. on February 20, 2025. He said the divisional police officer in charge of the Textile Mill Division received a call that they saw a corpse of a middle-aged man lying under sawdust and burning. According to him, the divisional police officer in charge of the Textile Mill Road Division received a distress call at about 8 a.m. on Thursday, February 20, 2025, from members of the public that they saw a corpse of a middle-aged man covered with sawdust and set ablaze. The DPO mobilized and deployed his operatives to the scene and actually found the corpse burning under the sawdust. They took the corpse to the hospital, but they, however, found that there was a gunshot injury on the back of the deceased's neck. Investigation has already commenced, and we have one suspect in our custody who is the security person of the sawmill at the time the incident happened, he said. Yamu said the case has been transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for in-depth investigations, assuring that at the conclusion of the investigation the suspect will be charged to court for murder. Daily Post reported that the deceased, identified as Lasan Osaze Ehabo, was said to have had disagreement with the said local vigilante member, adding that on the fateful day, the deceased was said to be returning home late in the night with his friend when they were accosted on the road near the sawmill by the suspect. The suspect, who was alleged to have been armed with a double-barrel gun, was said to question the deceased while returning late. The suspect was also alleged to have labeled the deceased a thief and accused him of coming to steal in the sawmill. It was further learned that, during the interrogation, the suspect brought out his gun and shot the deceased to death. He was to have dragged the deceased from the roadside into the sawmill where he allegedly gathered the sawdust in the milling company and set his body ablaze. Meanwhile, in her quest to rid the state of crime, the Commissioner of Police, CP Betty Enekpen Otimenyin, directed for the immediate retraining of personnel to enhance their operational capabilities to tackle the challenges ahead. A total of 160 personnel have so far been retrained in 2 batches covering the following areas: I. VIP escort, E. Ambush and counter-ambush, 3. Musketry, IV. Combat craft, V. Tactical retrogression movement, VI. Search and rescue, etc. The Commissioner of Police charged the personnel during the closing ceremony of the training for the second batch to be vigilant, courageous in the swift response to security breaches, while upholding high professional standards devoid of harassment, intimidation and extortion. The command reassures all indigents and residents of the state of police readiness to deliver improved, effective and efficient service under her watch, said Moses Yamu. Yamu, in another press release about the update on the communal crisis between Gbelemonti and Maidoti communities, said, on the 21st of February 2025 at about 10 a.m., the command received a distress call of an ongoing clash between Gbelemonti and Maidoti communities of Ovia Southwest local government area. Operatives of the Igobazua Police Division, in collaboration with the Nigerian Army and the Vigilantes, were promptly deployed to the area. The team evacuated some casualties to the hospital where 7 persons were confirmed dead while 6 injured ones are currently receiving treatment. The joint operation is sustained as the situation has been brought under control and normalcy restored. However, investigation into the cause of the clash has equally commenced. The Commissioner of Police, CP Betty Enekpen Otimenyin, has vowed that no stone would be left unturned in order to unravel the circumstances surrounding the unfortunate and avoidable incident, and warned members of the public to always channel their grievances to the appropriate authority, rather than taking laws into their hands. In another incident, police have arrested a man who killed his wife at Upper Mission Extension area in Benin City on Saturday. The Edo State Police spokesperson, Moses Eyamu, said, on the 22nd of February 2025 at about 10 p.m., information was received that one Kelvin Izeko of number 50 Upper Mission Extension, Benin City, has killed his wife named Success Izeko, aged 38 years, and was about to be lynched by an irate mob. Operatives of the Aduawa Division swiftly responded to the report and met the lifeless body of the woman lying in the pool of her own blood with deep cuts on her head. It took serious efforts by the police operatives to pacify the mob, rescue, and take the suspect into custody for investigation. The victim was removed and rushed to the hospital, where she was confirmed dead. The Edo State Commissioner of Police, CP Betty Enekpen Otimenyin, decried the recent cases of spouses being violent against each other while assuring the public of diligent investigation into the death of the woman, and whoever found culpable would be dealt with according to the law.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Following the public criticism of President Donald Trump of the United States that the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is a man who has lost touch with his people and a dictator who refused to conduct election for new leader to take over the affairs of the country, Zelenskyy, while asked if he could resign by a journalist at a press conference organized to mark the third-year anniversary of war in Ukraine, says he would do that if it would bring peace to Ukraine, and he's ready to do that as exchange for Ukraine to be enlisted as a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Asked on Sunday at a press conference if he was ready to quit if it ensures peace for Ukraine, Zelenskyy said, "If it guarantees peace for Ukraine, if you really need me to resign, I am ready. I can exchange it for NATO." The Ukrainian president previously had said his country's army will need to double in size if NATO denies its membership to the alliance. Earlier this month, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that Kyiv joining NATO was unrealistic. "If it is absolutely necessary for me to leave my post, I am ready to do so. I can exchange it for NATO membership. If such conditions exist, then immediately, without prolonged discussions. I am focused on Ukraine's security today and do not intend to remain in power for decades. This is probably my dream." Zelenskyy, who spoke in a native language as interpreted in English language by an interpreter, stated during the press conference marking the third anniversary of the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine. Zelenskyy, in a post on his X social media handle on Sunday, also said, "Ukrainians have come a long way. And this year, we must do everything possible and impossible to achieve a real peace. Peace with security guarantees for our state, with guarantees of dignity and respect for all our people, for everyone who has lived, lives and will live in Ukraine. The people of Ukraine deserve respect, just as every nation on earth does. And just as every person does. Those who are fighting, those who have raised truly heroic sons and daughters. I thank every Ukrainian warrior, all the families of our defenders, and everyone who stands with Ukraine. Thank you for keeping Ukraine alive." We had earlier reported that despite the medical condition that he's under, the high flow of oxygen in the hospital over double pneumonia, Pope Francis on Sunday, on the eve of the third-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine launched by President Vladimir Putin-led Russia government, called on everyone in the world to remember victims of the war in Ukraine, describing the war, which started on February 24, 2022, as painful, shameful for all humanity. Previously, we reported that the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelenskyy stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began. United States, U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelenskyy a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the immediate past U.S. President Joe Biden to commit over $350 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money on aid. While the North America country will not get any profit in return, with the Ukrainian president accusing Donald Trump of disinformation and saying that Putin-led Russia has intensified attacks and launched massive bomb destructions on Ukraine's cities and villages during the week of Donald Trump's outburst.
Would you be willing to give up the presidency if it meant peace for Ukraine? Thank you.
Так, з останнього. Якщо мир для України, якщо вам дуже потрібно, щоб я залишив свій пост.
If you really need for me to relieve my post, then I'm ready for the sake of the peace in Ukraine. And I can replace that to NATO if there is any, more to say on that. I'm focusing on Ukraine's security today, not in 20 years, and I'm not going to stay in power for decades. So that is my focus, that is my dream.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Despite the medical condition that he's under the high flow of oxygen in the hospital over double pneumonia, Pope Francis on Sunday, on the eve of the third-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine launched by President Vladimir Putin-led Russian government, called on everyone in the world to remember victims of the war in Ukraine, describing the war, which started on February 24, 2022 as painful, shameful for all humanity. According to local media monitoring the activities of Catholic Church, Vatican News Media, Pope Francis stated this during his Angelus address, which Pope Francis asked the Holy See Press Office to release while he recovered in the hospital. Adding, the Holy Father remembers the imminent 3-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine on the 24th of February 2025, calling it a painful and shameful occasion for all humanity, and saying he renews his solidarity with suffering Ukrainians and for all victims of armed conflicts as he prays for peace. The press release as presented by the Vatican News reads, "Tomorrow marks the 3rd anniversary of the full-scale war against Ukraine, a painful and shameful occasion for all of humanity." Pope Francis expressed this during the Angelus address he chose to have published on Sunday, one day before the 3-year anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine. The Holy Father has been being treated at Rome's Gemelli Hospital since February 14th, diagnosed with double pneumonia. In his Angelus remarks, the Holy Father remembered, martyred Ukraine. "As I renew my solidarity with the martyred Ukrainian people," the Pope reminded, "I invite you to remember the victims of all armed conflicts and to pray for the gift of peace in Palestine, Israel, and throughout the Middle East, in Myanmar, in Kivu, and in Sudan." The Holy Father also expressed his gratitude for all those who have been praying for him. "In these days, I have received many messages of affection," he noted, saying, "I have been particularly moved by the letters and drawings from children. Thank you for this closeness and for the comforting prayers I have received from all over the world." The Pope concluded, "Before reassuring, I entrust everyone to the intercession of Mary and ask you to pray for me." We had reported that the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelenskyy stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began. United States, U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelenskyy a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the immediate past U.S. President Joe Biden to commit over $350 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money on a war the North America country will not get any profit in return, with Ukrainian president accusing Donald Trump of disinformation and saying that Putin-led Russia has intensified attacks and launched massive bomb destructions on Ukraine cities and villages during the week of Donald Trump's outburst. We had also reported that the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, is not out of danger and his health worsened on Saturday evening, says Vatican. The Pope's funeral is allegedly being rehearsed after the 88-year-old warned he may not survive pneumonia. The Swiss guard protecting the Pope, 88, is rehearsing his funeral, with members under a curfew as they are preparing for the pontiff's death, Swiss newspaper Blick claims.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has continued his phone conversations with world leaders with a video and written press statement on Saturday saying that the world leaders must ensure that the Russian President Vladimir Putin is not allowed to deceive the world again, insisting that Putin has used Russian army, intelligence services and mercenaries over 30 years to bring death to America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Syria. This, Zelenskyy stated after he began special defense campaign with phone conversations with world leaders following strained relationship with one of the countries that has majorly assisted Ukraine in its defense against Russia since 2022 when the war began. United States, U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened to stop military aid to Ukraine, claiming that Ukraine started the war it knows it cannot win, calling President Volodymyr Zelenskyy a modestly successful comedian and a dictator that deceived the immediate past U.S. President Joe Biden to commit over $350 billion of U.S. taxpayers' money on a war the North America country will not get any profit in return, with Ukrainian president accusing Donald Trump of disinformation and saying that Putin-led Russia has intensified attacks and launched massive bomb destructions on Ukraine cities and villages during the week of Donald Trump's outburst. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, while responding to the accusations made against him by President Donald Trump, said that the U.S. president is living in disinformation space. Joe Biden is a very dumb man, President Trump said, criticizing former President Biden's handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and his approach to Vladimir Putin during an appearance on The Brian Kilmeade Show during the week. President Donald Trump had said on Tuesday that Ukraine was responsible for Russia's invasion of the country 3 years ago, arguing Kyiv could have made a deal to avoid the conflict. "You should have never started it," Trump said of Ukraine while criticizing President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who had expressed concern that his country was not included in talks between the US and Russia in Saudi Arabia. "I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited." "Well, you've been there for 3 years," Trump told reporters at his Mar-a-Lago resort. "You should have never started it. You could have made a deal," adding, "I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way." While speaking with American governors on Friday, President Donald Trump said that, "I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had not such good talks with Ukraine." President Donald Trump's envoy to Ukraine and Russia said on Friday that he had held extensive and positive discussions with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy about the 3-year war with Russia and praised the Ukrainian leader as an embattled and courageous leader of a nation at war. Retired U.S. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who traveled to Kyiv on Wednesday and whose planned news conference with Zelenskyy on Thursday was changed at the last minute to a simple photo opportunity, struck a positive tone after what he said on the social platform X was a long and intense day of talks with Ukraine's senior leadership. His comments marked a departure from recent rebukes of Zelenskyy by Trump and other senior U.S. officials that appeared to indicate an abrupt deterioration of relations. Trump called Zelenskyy a dictator without elections and warned him that he would better move fast to negotiate an end to the war or risk not having a nation to lead. According to President Zelenskyy, security guarantees are what unites the vast majority. Europe, America, and all our global partners need a shared understanding of how to ensure that Putin can never deceive the world again, and that Russia can no longer bring death to other nations, from Ukraine and Europe to Syria, the Middle East, and Africa. Over the past 30 years, we have seen far too much destruction and loss, all caused by Russia, its army, its intelligence services, its mercenaries. The world needs real security guarantees, and I am grateful to everyone for their support. Right now, we are talking with all our partners about security guarantees and concrete forms of support, actions, assistance, decisions, and messages. Thank you for all your support. On Sunday, Zelenskyy said that, every day, our people stand against aerial terror. On the eve of the third anniversary of the full-scale war, Russia launched 267 attack drones against Ukraine, the largest attack since Iranian drones began striking Ukrainian cities and villages. In total, nearly 1,150 attack drones, more than 1,400 guided aerial bombs and 35 missiles of various types were launched this week. I thank everyone who repels such attacks on a daily basis, our aviation, anti-aircraft missile troops, electronic warfare units and mobile fire groups of the Air Force and Defense Forces. I also thank those on the ground who save lives and respond to the aftermath of shelling, the State Emergency Service, medics, and the National Police. The war continues. Everyone capable of helping with air defense must work to enhance the protection of human life. We must do everything possible to bring a lasting and just peace to Ukraine. This is achievable through the unity of all partners. We need the strength of all of Europe, the strength of America, the strength of everyone who seeks lasting peace. I thank all our partners who help us and understand this. Some close watchers said that the escalating situation in Europe is reaching a dangerous new level, and it seems that all the people are being left in the dark following Donald Trump publicly blaming Ukraine for the war, and Russian state TV is reportedly and openly broadcasting nuclear attack scenarios against the US. Trump was reportedly furious with Zelenskyy during negotiations, threatening to cut off military aid because Ukraine refused to cave to Russia's demands. Top European leaders like Germany's Friedrich Merz are calling out Trump for pushing Russian propaganda, flipping the blame onto Ukraine instead of the aggressor, Vladimir Putin. Even former Vice President Mike Pence has stepped up, fact-checking Trump and making it clear that Ukraine did not start this war, Russia did. At the same time, Russia is ramping up military movements, and European leaders are scrambling to respond. Italy is now sending Centauro armored vehicles to Ukraine, and Ukraine itself is developing new AI-powered drone swarms to counter Russian advances. High-stakes negotiations are underway between Washington and Kyiv over military aid, resource agreements, and long-term security strategies. But here's the kicker. House Republicans are actively stalling new support for Ukraine, pushing the same pro-Putin rhetoric that's spreading across right-wing media. The European Union is expected to approve a massive aid package on soon, But the US political infighting is giving Russia exactly what it wants: more time, more power, and a chance to push the world toward an even bigger catastrophe. One of the close watchers, retired Major Richard Oyeda, who is a former US state senator. New York Times also reported how President Donald Trump is apparently proud of his quest to push Ukraine to sign a mineral deal of $500 billion, which some observers said would amount to almost 50% of the entire Ukrainian resources, in exchange for the US to continue to support or assist the victim of war, Ukraine, in its defensive fight against Russia. This agreement can add value to our relations. What matters most is getting the details right to ensure it truly works, Zelenskyy said in a social media post on Friday. The signs of easing tensions only underscored how Mr. Trump has struck an overtly transactional and mercantilist stance toward resolving a conflict, started by Russia, that carries profound security implications for Europe and the future of the transatlantic alliance. Mr. Trump and his allies had waged an all-out pressure campaign against the Ukrainian president, suggesting the United States might abandon the war-torn country and side with Russia, which launched an invasion into its western neighbor 3 years ago. During a radio interview Friday with the Fox News host Brian Kilmeade, Mr. Trump said he was tired of hearing that Russia was to blame for the war, as he painted Mr. Zelenskyy and his predecessor, President Joseph R. Biden, as the true problems. Every time I say, "Oh, it's not Russia's fault," I always get slammed by the fake news, Mr. Trump said. But I'm telling you, Biden said the wrong things. Zelenskyy said the wrong things. Mr. Trump emphasized he wanted rare earth and other minerals from Ukraine in exchange for any support from the United States. Who knows what rare earth is worth, you know, but at least it's something, Mr. Trump said. In the Oval Office, Mr. Trump continued to rail against Ukraine and Mr. Biden for not extracting more demands out of the country. Biden just gave them money. There was no loan, there was no security, was no anything, Mr. Trump said. So we're going to either sign a deal, or there's going to be a lot of problems with them. So we're going to sign a deal to get security, because we have to do that. Since Mr. Trump began his verbal assault, Kyiv has focused on strengthening its negotiating position as the United States and Russia open talks on ending the war, with or without Ukraine's involvement. In a flurry of diplomacy on Thursday and Friday, Mr. Zelenskyy spoke with half a dozen leaders in Europe and Canada to shore up other sources of support. Kyiv and Moscow engaged in direct talks early in the invasion, but since April of 2022 have negotiated only over prisoner of war exchanges and to return Ukrainian children from Russia. The idea of trading natural resources for US assistance was first put forward by Ukraine, but Mr. Zelenskyy balked when the US proposal suggested that Kyiv provide access to profits from 50% of the country's minerals and energy resources. Mr. Zelenskyy had also objected that the deal included no American security commitments. Several aides to Mr. Zelenskyy believe that a new version of the agreement under discussion on Thursday addresses those concerns, and have now advised Mr. Zelenskyy to sign it, a person familiar with discussions in the Ukrainian government about the US proposal said on Friday. The shift in some Ukrainian officials' stance on the deal was first reported by Axios, according to the New York Times. We're signing an agreement hopefully in the next fairly short period of time that will assure us that we get $400 minus $500 billion back. President Donald Trump speaks about Ukraine possibly giving the United States minerals and ending the war. Meanwhile, the arrangements for an in-person meeting between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are already underway, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said on Friday.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis is not out of danger and his health worsened on Saturday evening, says Vatican. The Vatican made this known a few moments ago, saying the health condition of the Catholic Pope has worsened more than it was on Friday and the health of the Catholic Church is uncomfortable. The Vatican said the 88-year-old Pope Francis, who is being treated in hospital for double pneumonia, will not appear in public on Sunday to lead his usual weekly prayer with pilgrims for a second consecutive week. In quote, Vatican stated in the press release thus, the Holy See Press Office issued the following medical update on Pope Francis on Saturday evening. The condition of the Holy Father continues to be critical. Therefore, as explained yesterday, the Pope is not out of danger. This morning, Pope Francis experienced an asthma-like respiratory crisis of prolonged intensity, which required the administration of high-flow oxygen. Today's blood tests also revealed thrombocytopenia, associated with anemia, which required the administration of blood transfusions. The Holy Father remains alert and spent the day in an armchair, although he is more uncomfortable than yesterday. At the moment, the prognosis remains guarded. It would be recalled that during the week, Pope Francis had privately told his aides that he may not survive his current battle with pneumonia and is making preparations for his legacy, including considerations for his successor. Pope Francis, who was diagnosed with pneumonia in both lungs and admitted to a hospital in Rome with bronchitis last Friday, slept well overnight and ate breakfast on Wednesday, the Vatican said. A source at the institution said the pontiff was not suffering heart problems and was breathing on his own, without the aid of a respirator. They said he was sitting up in an armchair at times, and it was understood that he is under strict orders from his medical team to rest. The Vatican said Pope Francis had a peaceful night, a day after revealing the 88-year-old pontiff has pneumonia in both lungs. The Pope is under strict orders to rest and is not allowed visitors, but he has been signing documents and making phone calls from the hospital. According to the Vatican, Pope Francis was diagnosed with a polymicrobial respiratory tract infection. Recent tests reveal a complex clinical picture, requiring an extended hospital stay for the 88-year-old pontiff in Rome. Local media reported that the Vatican is reportedly making preparations for Pope Francis's funeral amid concerns over the 88-year-old pontiff's declining health. The blood tests, evaluated by the medical staff, show a slight improvement, particularly in the inflammatory markers, according to the previous press release issued by the Holy See Press Office on Pope Francis's health on Wednesday evening. It described the Holy Father's condition as stable. Continuing, the statement explained the Pope had breakfast in the morning and then engaged in work activities with his closest collaborators. Before lunch, he received the Eucharist. In the afternoon, Pope Francis received a visit from the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, with whom he privately spent 20 minutes. The Pope's funeral is allegedly being rehearsed after the 88-year-old warned he may not survive pneumonia. The Swiss guard protecting the Pope, 88, is rehearsing his funeral, with members under a curfew as they are preparing for the pontiff's death, Swiss newspaper Blick claims. The Holy See said the Argentine Pope's clinical conditions were stable on his 6th day at Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where on Tuesday it revealed he had been diagnosed with pneumonia in both of his lungs. The blood tests, evaluated by the medical staff, show a slight improvement, particularly in inflammatory indices, said the Vatican in a statement on Wednesday. Following breakfast, he dedicated himself to work activities with his closest collaborators, it added. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni also visited the pontiff for 20 minutes, it said, and she found him alert and responsive. We joked as always. He hasn't lost his proverbial sense of humor, Meloni said in a statement. The double pneumonia diagnosis caused widespread alarm over the Pope's health, after a series of issues in recent years, from colon and hernia surgery to problems working.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC have handed over millions of naira recovered from internet criminals to representatives of the fraud victims in America, Spain and Switzerland, just as the EFCC arraigned a lawyer for 1.3 billion naira's forex fraud in Uyo and more 35 Chinese nationals for cyber-terrorism's internet fraud in Lagos State. EFCC, in numbers of news releases during the week, disclosed this as presented verbatim below. EFCC hands over $132,362.43, 78,566,324 nairas and 81 kobos to foreign victims of fraud. As a gesture of its commitment to tackling economic and financial crimes and offering restitution to victims of fraudulent practices, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has handed over a total sum of $132,362 United States dollars, 43 cents, 78,566,324 naira, 81 kobo to American, Spanish and Swiss victims of local fraudsters. The handover, which was performed by the executive chairman of the commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, took place on Friday, February 21, 2025 at the EFCC's corporate headquarters in Jabi, Abuja. A delighted Olukoyede observed that the event is a demonstration of the commitment of the federal government of Nigeria and that of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the fight against corruption and financial crimes. A commitment to good governance, a commitment to stimulating the economy, and a commitment to prove to the entire world that Nigeria is not a safe haven for financial crimes. A commitment to international cooperation and international synergy in the fight against financial crimes, which you will agree with me, has become a global crime. Speaking further, he said, "We are here to demonstrate that the federal government of Nigeria, through the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is ready to do everything possible to prevent financial crimes from being perpetrated in our system. And when one has taken place, to investigate where assets are involved, to trace, to recover, and where necessary, prosecute. We don't just recover, we restitute the victims. We are here this morning to restitute those who were victimized through the perpetration of economic and financial crimes. It is important to know that once proceeds of crime are recovered, the most responsible thing to do is to restitute the victims. Handed over in addition to money are vehicles and real estate to citizens of Spain, United States of America and Switzerland. Acting Ambassador of Spain to Nigeria, Maria Higon Velasco, received the sum of $1,300 and evidence of 30 million nairas already transferred to the Embassy of Spain in Nigeria for onward transmission to a victim, Maria del Rosario San Jose. Florent Gil, Senior Political Officer, First Secretary, Embassy of Switzerland, received $100,011.43, $100,011.43 on behalf of a victim, Chantal Helen Lavancy, formerly known as Chantal Helen Meda. Charles Smith, Legal Attaché, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Embassy of the United States, received the sum of $7,344, $7,963,483 nairas and 35 kobos, $7,963,483 naira, 35 kobo, and Bitcoin cryptocurrency valued at $4,470, $4,470 on behalf of the United States Embassy in Nigeria for onward transmission to a victim, Maria Jesus Brokel. Also received by Smith was Mercedes-Benz E554 Matic chassis number WDDHF9AB6AA111112, Mercedes-Benz C450 AMG with chassis number WDD20J0641F282467, and one residential bungalow, located at 1719 Seaman Street, Ungwar Maijero, Kaduna, Kaduna State, on behalf of the United States Embassy in Nigeria for onward transmission to the crime victim. Additionally, Smith received the sum of $7,527 on behalf of the United States Embassy in Nigeria for onward transmission to the victim of the crime, Michael Smith. He also received the sum of $11,710 on behalf of the United States Embassy in Nigeria for onward transmission to the crime victim, Cheryl Williams. Lastly, Smith received the sum of 32,639,358 naira and 11 kobos, 32,639,358 naira, 11 kobo on behalf of the United States Embassy in Nigeria for onward transmission to the crime victim, Mama Maro. In her remarks, Her Excellency Velasco expressed gratitude, adding that, "This is a sign of the collaboration between Nigeria and Spain, and we are very grateful for this collaboration." Smith said, "As the FBI legal attaché and the representative of the U.S. government, I want to say we personally appreciate this. Many here may not understand what the impact this does to the victims. This gives them complete closure and it allows them to feel whole again. So we really do appreciate and we thank the EFCC. The EFCC is just not operating in Nigeria. The EFCC is a major global contender and you should recognize that every time." On behalf of the government of Switzerland, Gil thanked the government of Nigeria and EFCC for the recovery and restitution. "I thank the Nigerian government and especially the EFCC for the work they have done to combat internet fraud and other financial crimes. Today's restitution of money obtained from a Swiss citizen demonstrates the effectiveness but also integrity, professionalism, courage and collaboration that occur between Nigeria and Switzerland. So, thank you for this exemplary collaboration and work in making the digital world safer and better regulated. Switzerland will continue to work alongside the Nigerian government in the service of the security of our respective people. So thank you again," he said. The Permanent Secretary, Foreign Affairs Ministry, Umar Ahmed, thanked Olukoyede for his efforts in the anti-corruption fight and conveyed the felicitation of the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Toga, and the ministry to the EFCC and the Nigerian government. According to him, "This is really an unprecedented development, and you cannot believe the impact that this development will have on the mandate of the ministry, because it makes our work a whole lot easier because it really enhances the credibility of Nigeria in the international scene. And it will also go a long way in restoring investors' confidence in the country. And the ministry is very well with you in pursuing this mandate and wants to thank you for this initiative. It demonstrates the support of our President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in the fight against corruption and also in strengthening the EFCC in carrying out its mandate. All of us in the ministry are really happy with this development and will keep on working with you and supporting you and in carrying your mandate." EFCC arraigns 18 more Chinese for alleged cyber-terrorism, internet fraud in Lagos. The Lagos Zonal Directorate of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Thursday, February 20, 2025, arraigned additional 18 Chinese before Justice Daniel Oshego of the Federal High Court, sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos. They are Hoang Bo, Xiao Zhen, Lai Rui Feng, Deng Wei Qian, Fu Min, Qin Xiaoyong, Li Dong, Li Dewen, Luo Maoyang, Zhao Xiaohui, Du Jifeng, Lu Hairong, Lu Nini, Lu Gang, Sun Qi, Zhang Jian, Peng Fa Li and Huo Wen. They are among the 792 member cryptocurrency investment and romance fraud suspects arrested on December 10, 2024, in Lagos, in a sting operation tagged Eagle Flush Operation, by EFCC operatives. The suspects were arraigned on separate charges, bordering on cybercrimes, cyber-terrorism, possession of documents containing false pretense and identity theft. One of the charges reads that Yohan Bo, Shang Zheng, Lai Rui Feng, Genting International Company Limited and ADAO, at large, sometime in December 2024, in Lagos, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, conspired with yourselves to commit an offense to wit, cause to be accessed, computer systems for the purpose of destabilizing and destroying the economic and social structure of Nigeria, and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 27, 1B and punishable under Section 18, 1 of the Cybercrimes Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act, 2015. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges when they were read to them, following which prosecution counsel, Nemeka Omwa, asked the court for a trial date and for the defendants to be remanded in the appropriate correctional center. Justice Oshago adjourned the matter till May 5, 2025 for trial, and ordered that they be remanded at the Correctional Custodial Center. EFCC arraigned 17 Chinese for alleged cyber-terrorism, internet fraud in Lagos. The Lagos Zonal Directorate of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Friday, February 21, 2025, arraigned 17 more Chinese and the company, Genting International Company Limited, before Justice Musa Kakaki and Justice Daniel Oshago, both of the Federal High Court, sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos, for fraud. They are Mao Yuyi, Li Chen Long, Dai Li, Yuhai Qin, Jia Yang, Jia Ji, Hao Tao Kun, Lu Juan, Zhao Shaolian, Xiao Zichen, Zhang Sanfeng, Li Zongchan, Chen Guiping, Su Jianfu, Su Zongzhen, Wang Ji, and Zhen Zerong. The defendants are among the 792 member cryptocurrency investment and romance fraud suspects arrested on December 10, 2024, in a sting operation tagged Eagle Flush Operation by EFCC operatives. They were arraigned on separate charges bordering on alleged cyber-terrorism, cybercrime, possession of documents containing false pretense, and identity theft. While G and Zerong were arraigned before Justice Kakaki, the remaining 15 were arraigned before Justice Oshago. The charge against he reads that you, Maobi Yuyi and Genting International Company Limited, sometimes in December 2024 at Lagos within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, willfully caused to be accessed computer system for the purpose of destabilizing and destroying the economy and social structure of Nigeria, and thereby committed an offense contrary to and punishable under Section 18 of the Cybercrime Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act, 2015, as amended, 2024. The charge against G reads that you, Wang Ji aka Su Zongcheng, and Genting International Company Limited, sometime between the 29th of November, 2024 and 10th of December, 2024 at number 7, Oyinjolayemi Street, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Lagos, within the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, willfully caused to be accessed computer systems which were organized to destabilize the social and economic structure of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when you secretly procured and employed several Nigerian youths for identity theft and other computer-related fraud, and you thereby committed an offense, contrary to and punishable under Section 18 of the Cybercrimes Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2015 as amended. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges, following which prosecution counsel, M.S. Owede, T.J. Banjo, A.C. Olowenihi, and N.C. Mutfund asked the courts for trial dates and for the defendants to be remanded in the appropriate correctional center. While Justice Kakaki adjourned the matter till March 20, 2025 for trial, Justice Oshago adjourned till June 11, 2025 for trial. They were all ordered to be remanded in the correctional center. EFCC arraigns lawyer for alleged 1.3 billion naira's forex fraud in Uyu. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Uyo Zonal Directorate, on Wednesday, February 12, 2025, arraigned a legal practitioner barrister Alexander Uchenna Ozugbo before Justice Sergio's Honor of the Federal High Court sitting in Uyu, Akwa Ibom State, for allegedly defrauding his victims to the tune of 1 naira, 323, 850, 000.00, 1 billion, 323 million, 850,000 naira through a bogus foreign exchange investment scheme. He was arraigned on 6 count charges bordering on obtaining money by false pretense in contravention of provisions of Section 18, 2D of the Money Laundering, Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. Count 1 of the charges against him reads that you Alexander Uchenna Ozugbo sometime in September 2024 in Nigeria, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, they take possession of the total sum of 268,850,000 naira only, 268,850,000 nairas, through a bank account with account name Starlight Attorneys which uniform proceeds of an unlawful act to wit, obtaining money by false pretense and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 18(2)(d) of the Money Laundering, Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022 and punishable under Section 18(3) of the same Act. Count 2 reads that you Alexander Uchenna Ozugbo sometime in July 2024 in Nigeria, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, they take possession of the total sum of 213 million naira only, 213 million nairas, through a bank account with account name Starlight Attorneys which uniform proceeds of an unlawful act to wit, obtaining money by false pretense and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 18(2)(d) of the Money Laundering, Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022 and punishable under Section 18(3) of the same Act. The defendant pleaded not guilty to the charges when they were read to him, and in view of his plea, prosecution counsel, Joshua O. Abolarin prayed the court to remand the defendant at a correctional center and fix a date for trial, but the defense counsel CM Onichuku quickly informed the court of a bail application which he said was filed on self-recognizance for the defendant and also assured the court that he shall make himself available for trial. After listening to both counsels, Justice Honor granted bail in the sum of 500 million nairas, 500 million naira only with 2 sureties in like sum. The sureties must be civil servants of grade level 12 and above, and must have landed properties within the jurisdiction of the court. The court also ordered the defendant to deposit his international passport and 2 recent passport photographs with the court. Ozugbo was docked on the claims of 4 petitioners that alleged that he presented himself as a registered bureau de change operator with the Central Bank of Nigeria through which he earned their trust and collected the passwords to their betting accounts and promising that he was going to help them fund their accounts, but ended up diverting their funds. Investigation into the allegations revealed that the defendant was operating a Ponzi scheme under the guise of exchanging dollars for his victims and channeling most of the funds to various betting platforms. A total of 1,323,850,000 nairas was discovered to have been diverted from the accounts of the petitioners. The judge adjourned the matter to March 31, 2025 for trial.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Edo State Government under the leadership of Governor Monday Okpebholo has said it will probe the immediate past governor of the state, Godwin Obaseki, and his political party, People's Democratic Party, PDP, after rain with breeze caught broken a telecommunication mast at Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City, killing one of the event decorators. Pius Etim, whom privileged video showed that he was apparently left to die as Pius Etim was seen in the video, trapped under the iron pole and begging for rescue for some minutes, which no one apparently didn't make effort to help him at an event organized by Governor Okpebholo to mark his 100 days in office just as same day. The rain also caught broken a very large billboard with the photograph of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu done on it with a bold caption, "Baba, Edo is working. Although the rain fell, the political ad on a moving car, but the occupant of the vehicle survived the accident. According to AccuWeather forecast, rain was not expected to fall in Benin City on February 20, 2025. Instead, a heavy downpour was forecasted to start in the Edo State capital on Friday, February 21, 2025. Some residents in Benin City said the rain was strange because the downpour came with a little breeze to cut, breaking the gigantic large billboard of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at Seluko Road Junction in Benin City, collapsing on a red moving car, which occupant of the vehicle came out alive unhurt. Fred Itua, the chief press secretary to the state governor, in a press release issued and made available on Friday, said as presented in quotes below. Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Okpebholo has expressed deep sadness and condolences to the family of Pius Atim, a young man who tragically lost his life due to an unfortunate incident on Thursday evening at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City, following a heavy rainfall. Governor Okpebholo described the collapsed mast that killed Pius Atim during the heavy rainfall as unfortunate, sad and painful. I am deeply saddened to learn of the passing of a young man, Pius Atim, during the intense rainfall and collapse of a mast at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City. Governor Okpebholo extends heartfelt condolences to the family of Pius Atim during this difficult time. On behalf of the people of Edo State, I offer my deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Pius Atim. Our thoughts and prayers are with them during this period of grief. Governor Okpebholo, however, frowned at the attitude of leaders and members of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, who took to various social media platforms on Thursday night to celebrate the unfortunate death of Pius Atim. Governor Okpebholo said such callousness and lack of empathy for the family of the deceased show that the PDP in Edo State has lost touch with the people it once governed. Preliminary investigations show that the collapsed structure at the Samuel Ogbemudia was erected by the administration of Godwin Obaseki, which did a shabby job. It is unfortunate that Obaseki and the PDP in Edo State, known for their lack of integrity, hired compromised contractors to erect defective structures at the stadium. The poor job executed by the administration of Obaseki at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, which led to the unfortunate death of Pius Atim, will be investigated. The contractors or PDP members who may have handled the poor job, if found liable, will face the full wrath of the law. Meanwhile, in another press release, it was said, in his address at an event to commemorate the administration's first 100 days in office, held at the Victor Owaifo Creative Hub in Benin City, the governor said he has laid a strong foundation for progress across critical sectors in the state. Noting that he met a state full of potentials, but facing challenges, Governor Okpebholo said from the first day of his administration, the focus and goal was clear: to restore hope in leadership, create opportunities and set Edo on the path of lasting progress. He noted that there is so much to be done and his administration is taking decisive steps to turn its vision into reality. Governor Okpebholo railed out the successes of his administration in the areas of security, infrastructure, natural resources and agriculture, and education, and assured the people that more benefits are in the offing. We have taken significant steps in strengthening our economy by increasing our internally generated revenue (IGR) by 10 billion naira as we took our drive to corporate bodies. We have done away with wasteful consultants and invested resources in strengthening public efficiency, and our commitment to job creation is evident in the growth of the public service. Our talent development program, where best minds contribute meaningfully to the growth and development of Edo State. Our administration understands that SM is at the bedrock of our economy, and so, we launched interest-free loan scheme for market women, farmers and artisans, which will benefit over 5,000 people in collaboration with the World Bank. We have disbursed grants to over 400 small business owners, ensuring resilience in the face of economic challenges, he said. While railing out achievements in the area of food, security and agriculture, the governor said his administration, in order to make food readily available for the people, had banned market unions who were responsible for price inflation in all the markets. He said, healthcare remains a top priority within the last 100 days in office as we have established the first VVF center in the South-South, ensuring women receive specialized maternal care, run free malaria testing and free treatment across government hospitals for the next 2 years, upgrade health facilities across the state, ensuring quality healthcare services for Edo citizens. For my administration, security is not negotiable as we took bold steps by amending the anti-cultism and kidnapping laws with stiffer penalties, which has led to significant reduction in cult-related violence. We reorganized the Edo State Security Corps and recovered over 3,500 illegal firearms, procured 75 Toyota Hilux vehicles and 350 motorbikes to match the criminals in line with our promise to smoke them out. My administration is constructing major roads across the state with the historic Ramat Park flyover project, which is set to ease traffic congestion in Benin City. Looking ahead, the future of Edo State under my leadership is bright as evidenced in the progress we have made together. With our economic development plan, we will prioritize agricultural infrastructure and investment in youth skills development as the state becomes the 5th largest economy in Nigeria. He noted that the plan by his administration is to drive economic growth in the next 4 years. National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC, Dr. Umar Ganduje commended the governor for his developmental strides in the state, saying Opebholo is a progressive, a performer and working governor. Unveiling the project, SHINE, the Secretary to the State Government, Musa Ikilo, said SHINE is an acronym that stands for Security, Infrastructure, Natural Resources and Agriculture, and Education, and it is the framework that drives the actions of Governor Opebholo. He noted that the actions of the governor are backed up with plans derived from his many interactions with the people. According to him, disengaging non-state actors consultants, the administration has been able to discover that the previous administration was appropriating 5.7 billion naira to subscribe to the eGov platform. The guest lecturer, who is a former governor of Edo State and senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, who spoke on the theme, Practical Governance, A New Edo Has Risen, said Edo is truly rising as the Opebholo administration is working and fixing the state. He noted that the current administration has demonstrated practical governance in the last 100 days as there are evidences to show for its achievements. Oshiomhole added that the administration led by Opebholo is working without signing mosques and hiring consultants to help develop the state. The governor is a man who talks less but works more, and in 100 days, we have more achievements to show to Edo people. What Edo people want is for your administration to continue to create the enabling environment for them to thrive. Before now, the previous administration used state funds to buy weapons for talks to disturb the peace of the people of Edo State, but Senator Monday Opebholo uses state resources to create the enabling environment for Edo people to live peacefully. In 100 days, the governor provided security vehicles for security agencies in the state, revived Edo Line transport services after many years, what I could not achieve in 100 days in my time. In 100 days you have laid a very solid foundation for the progress, growth and development of Edo State, he stated. Chairman of the Planning Committee and Deputy Governor of Edo State, Honorable Dennis Idahosa, in his welcome address said the occasion was to take stock of the achievements of the Opebholo-led administration in the last 100 days. He said the agenda of this present administration is to turn Edo State around and return its glory through the 5-point agenda of the governor, which focuses on development and growth, and making the citizens priority. In 100 days in office, we already have evidences to show that a new Edo is rising. As we present our achievements of 100 days in office, Edo people will agree that this administration stands as a testament to practical governance as a new Edo is rising, he said. Coordinator, Office of the First Lady, Edesili Anani Opevolo thanked the governor for his developmental strides in Edo State, urging him to give women more appointments in his administration. She assured that the women will give him their 100% vote come 2028 governorship election. Other guests present at the occasion included the former Minister for Budget and National Planning, Clem Abba, former Deputy Governors of Edo State, Lucky Imasuen, Pius Odubu and Comrade Philip Shaibu, Speaker, Edo State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Blessing Agbabaku, traditional and religious leaders, party leaders, civil servants, politicians, civil society groups, market women and other stakeholders.
Congratulations, my brother. Congratulations. Heavy big board, you can see.
I thank God for your life.
He is the driver of the vehicle. God just saved his life. See? This is the vehicle. I see now. I see local road. Vehicle, everything is compressed, but the driver is alive. The driver is alive, as you can see.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Nigeria Senate has summoned the current National Security Advisor, NSA, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, Adeola Ajayi, Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Ambassador Mohammed and the Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, Major General Emmanuel Onyende following the allegations made on Friday, February 14, 2025 at the United States Congress by a U.S. Congressman, Scott Perry, that the U.S. government is funding Boko Haram among other terrorist organizations in the world through the United States Aid for International Development, USAID. This, he said, less than 3 years after former Nigeria Chief Security Officer Hamza Al-Mustafa on December 6, 2022, as a guest at the reality radio and television magazine program produced by the Brackett family, alleged that Boko Haram insurgency is a product of foreign interest for the purpose of exporting an unannounced most expensive mineral resource in the world, Californium stone, that is abundantly found in Borno State, used by world powers to produce nuclear weapons, with emphasis that the Boko Haram activities are funded by foreign interests under the guise of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, who do come to Borno with the pretense that they are helping the people to fight against poverty and poor healthcare, but at the dead of the night, the foreign NGO officials alone do go to dangerous places in Borno State where Nigerian soldiers dare not go even at daytime. Vanguard newspaper reported that the Senate invited the intelligence chiefs just as President Bola Tinubu and Senate President Godswill Akpabio met last night at the presidential villa to discuss the matter. Californium was discovered in 1950 by Albert Gilso and Glenn T. Seaborg at the University of California, Berkeley, and was named after the state of California and the university where it was discovered. And Californium stone is used for nuclear explosives, which Boko Haram in 2010 almost on daily basis was bombing Nigeria capital city, Abuja, when the then National Security Advisor, Owoye Azazi, who later died in helicopter crash, that Boko Haram has foreign support, well-trained, funded and enjoyed patronage of some politicians like the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who he alleged was aiding and abetting Boko Haram over internal wrangling in the then ruling party. When the Chibok girls were kidnapped by Boko Haram, the then Nigerian First Lady, Patience Jonathan, obviously acting on privilege and security intelligence, apparently accused the people in the northeastern part of Nigeria that they knew what they are doing and that the blood of innocent people they are sharing in the region is enough. The U.S. government, led by then President Barack Obama, apparently believed members of the Boko Haram group to be protesters or freedom fighters, and Barack Obama always blamed the Boko Haram insecurity on bad governance in Nigeria until U.S. congressmen and women mounted consistent pressure on him to declare the Boko Haram insurgency an international terrorist organization, which Barack Obama eventually did in June 2012 after Boko Haram had bombed United Nations UN headquarters in Abuja in 2011. In June, the U.S. State Department announced the designations for the Boko Haram leader, Abubakar Shekau, as well as Abubakar Adam Kamba and Khalid al-Banawi. Kamba and Banawi were said to be linked to Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, Al-Qaeda's North African branch. Barack Obama, while designating the Boko Haram as an international terrorist organization, according to a press statement made available to newsmen by the White House, indicated and stated that the designation is significant because it directs U.S. law enforcement and regulatory agencies to block business and financial transactions with Boko Haram, which is fighting to impose Islamic law in northern Nigeria and has ties to Al-Qaeda. Boko Haram means Western education is sacrilege. The move makes it a crime under U.S. law to provide material support to the group. Although the U.S. government never named the businesses of the Boko Haram and their accounts or savings assets in the United States, the then leader of the Boko Haram insurgency, Abubakar Shekau, in reaction claimed he has no business interests in the United States, but the government of President Muhammadu Buhari said there were over 100 Boko Haram sponsors with links to 10 countries. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu, in March 2021, said the Nigerian government arrested operators of 400 Bureau de Change for allegedly funding Boko Haram insurgency in the country, saying the suspects were transferring money to the terrorists, and the statement was widely reported by Nigerian newspapers. U.S. Congressman Scott Perry on Friday claimed that USAID had funded terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram. Perry, a Republican representing Pennsylvania, made the claim during the inaugural hearing of the Subcommittee on Delivering on Government Efficiency on the 14th of February 2025. The session, titled "The War on West: Stamping Out the Scourge of Improper Payments and Fraud," focused on allegations of financial mismanagement within U.S. foreign aid programs. Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds in madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding, Perry said. The call for an urgent investigation into allegations of terror financing against USAID followed a motion raised by Senator Ali Ndume on the urgent need to probe the matter. During the plenary, lawmakers expressed concerns over a viral video of a U.S. congressman, Scott Perry, who alleged that USAID has been involved in financing terrorist groups across the world, including Boko Haram. Ndume noted that this claim comes shortly after the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, raised alarm that terrorist groups in the country were receiving sponsorship and training from international organizations. The freeze in aid funding by Donald Trump's new U.S. administration has left humanitarian workers seeing a large proportion of their budget cut off, and fearing millions will be affected as programs are suspended. On January 24th, 4 days after Trump returned to power, NGOs linked to the USAID received a first letter asking them to cease all activities funded by the agency. A week later, a second letter, sent by AFP, authorized them to resume certain missions intended for life-saving humanitarian assistance. But the terms used are vague, and the NGOs say they feel lost. The new administration has launched stinging attacks on USAID, which Trump claimed was run by radical lunatics, and his ally and advisor, the world's richest person Elon Musk, has described as a criminal organization. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now its acting director, vowing to put an end to its insubordination. Global and regional NGOs told AFP in interviews that the effect to their work has been immediate and warned the move could also erode U.S. influence worldwide. BBC on the 20th of July 2015 had reported that the U.S. President, Barack Obama, has pledged to support his Nigerian counterpart Muhammadu Buhari in the fight against Islamist militant group Boko Haram. In the first meeting between the two since Mr. Buhari's election, Mr. Obama said the Nigerian leader had a very clear agenda for defeating extremism. The U.S. has committed $5 million to the fight against Boko Haram since Mr. Buhari came to power. The jihadists have killed thousands in northeast Nigeria since 2009. Speaking after the two met at the White House, Mr. Obama called Nigeria one of the most important countries on the African continent and praised Mr. Buhari for tackling corruption, an issue which compromised Washington's relationship with the Nigerian leader's predecessor, Goodluck Jonathan. Boko Haram has carried out attacks in northern Nigeria since its insurgency began in 2009, most notably the April 2014 kidnapping of 276 Nigerian schoolgirls who are still missing. President Obama's wife Michelle got involved in an online campaign to draw attention to the girls' plight, #BringBackOurGirls, and the U.S. sent surveillance flights over Nigeria to help locate them. However, the U.S. refuses to sell weapons to Nigeria because of concerns over its army's human rights record, BBC reported. Meanwhile, the former presidential candidate of Action Alliance, AA, and former chief security officer to the late General Sani Abacha, retired Major General Hamza Al-Mustafa, claimed that Borno State has a highly radioactive element, californium, in abundance. According to Hamza Al-Mustafa, the said precious stone, californium, is responsible for the Boko Haram insurgency and other security challenges bedeviling the state for more than a decade. The 62-year-old retired military officer said Nigerians should visit Google and search for the price of californium element, which is worth $27 million per gram. In the viral video of the radio program, Al-Mustafa further alleged that the environmental degradation in the form of oil spillage and pollution that has been disturbing the oil-rich Niger Delta region is nothing but a game plan orchestrated by powerful forces in order to satisfy their self-centered interests.
Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school.
Social media is garbage in.
Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
The level of interference by the Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if, by my own thinking, and also the way some other people look at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned.
Behind his back. We should, we must hear from our own security agencies.
To sending that person to Nigeria at the eve of election, after Obama even issued a statement directing Nigerians to vote for the next chapter, that tells you something. And we should not sweep these things under the carpet. If a foreign country, whether African country or even America or any other country, interferes with our own elections, we should mention it.
And questionings and all that to brief us. And security is not something...
Immediately the Chibok issue came up, we expect Nigerians to be concerned. How do we get these girls out? Within a couple of days, we saw people going to the US. We bring back our girls' placards. How? Why? And of course, the Mrs. Obama received one of those placards. I cannot take responsibility for the abduction. I don't control Boko Haram. They are criminals. But as a president, of course, you know, it's not the president that go to the field. You have security and intelligence officers that do the work. Let me admit that, yes, maybe they do their best, but their best was not good enough for us to recover the girls. That does not mean that I'm trying to remove myself from any blame. Yes, I may not be blamed for the action, but I could be blamed that my security and intelligence system are not strong enough to be able to rescue the girls.
You know what I'm talking about. You can Google as I talk. What is californium? Californium.
Is a state in the United States?
No. It's a precious stone.
Oh, not California.
That's why I want to tell you this.
Californium.
Californium in today's market, Google and tell me the price before I finish talking. In today's market today, in the world market today, one may ask, in Borno State, there is Boko Haram. There are areas that are still mined, now no-go area. The weather is harsh. It's very unfriendly. It's a small place. But there is something the international community with the connivance of Nigeria. Every day you have NGOs
coming into,
and they are hiring houses from 10 years, 20 years and above. And once you give them the price, they don't ask, they just pay. What are they doing? Why are most of them coming with satellite telephones? Why are most of them coming with PCs that are working with the same satellite telephones?
Computers that are working directly with satellite.
How come most of them come under the guise of supportive activities to the poor? They are giving them medication. Did the Ministry of Health bother to discover the type of medicine they are giving to the poor? How come there is increase in kidney and cancer, kidney and liver and cancer problems in Borno? How come it is attacking old people? How come the NGOs live in the wee hours of the night where soldiers dread to go? Police, security men cannot go. They go. This californium do they take per day? How much is a gram of californium in world market today? Who has Google to know? 27,100,000 per gram. $1 million. I didn't say naira. Yes, it's the most expensive thing.
Do we have it in Nigeria?
In abundance in Borno State. That's what started the Boko Haram. That's the game. Are we aware? How can we be ignorant of our country, of our place, of what God has given to us? If we don't know your country, what type of leadership are you coming to give? You are a liability if you don't know. How can we be supporting ignorance to say that's where we search for leadership? What can we do about it?
Somebody should read it out. How much is californium?
Okay. Californium is...
Talk to the mic properly.
Californium is $27 million per gram, not kilogram.
So how many grams is in a kilogram?
1,000.
1,000 grams makes 1 kilogram. And 1 gram is
$27 million.
So 1 kilogram
is the most expensive. You know when I knew this? 1996. And one of the offenses we committed to some big men is getting to know this. We were tagged enemies, and it should not be known. 1996, I was tagged. Remember, at that time, there was the first campaign against me in Concord newspaper, front page, the Iron Man behind Abacha. That was the beginning on how to destroy me. And all for Nigeria. And I'm doing it for our well-being. If you sit down and say Kuwait is rich, how can we be seeing our relations, our parents? Whosoever you are, a mother is a mother. You see mothers carrying wood, and that's your mother. If you laugh at her because she's poor, she's your mother. You see an uncle trekking some without shoes into the farm, toiling the soil, that's your father. It doesn't matter which part of Nigeria he comes from. It doesn't matter whether he's a Muslim or Christian. These are our parents. How can we have these riches and be seeing poverty all around us and we think we're comfortable? What am I going to tell God Almighty? I'm a deceit, I'm a liar. It is better I offend any person in telling him the truth and standing by it than to offend God Almighty. That's the way some of us are. That's why we're not friendly with some of them.
The Niger Deltans are not drilling good water, no hospital.
In fact, Niger Delta, let me tell you one of the little homework we have done. Out of numerous that you are aware of, you know spillage that you see in Niger Delta?
This oil spillage
is deliberate.
Oh, it's deliberate.
It's a game. Let me tell you what it is. You know these rubber plants, the plants is harder coming from water, correct? Yes. Once there is spillage and it stays beyond a month, part of it becomes rotten and hardened. And then when money is paid for environmental cleaning, that plant in itself that is soft in oil, they will now take it along. No, take it along. And when it is now regrilled, refiltered, is the best energy for nuclear plants.
So they will have information.
So that is to say, environmental degradation, environmental pollution is an investment at the expense of our mothers, at the expense of our fishermen in South, at the expense of their health. And who has ever spoken about this? I'm sure you never heard of this.
Are we getting educated? Are we getting educated?
Yes, sir.
That's why some of us, I know I'm a northerner, and I know how much we invested in getting to know the ills and the abuses against our people. In South, there are many people unconsciously are being used against the environment. Little money, weapons, drinks. Everything goes. But they are killing the country. They are killing the family. Look at the health. Go to Port Harcourt. Take your bath.
Come out and see.
Come out. 10 minutes after, take handkerchief, clean your face. That is what you are inhaling into your lungs. For how long? How much of this health hazard is affecting people? How much have we done in cleansing the environment? How much have we invested in having clean air? Since 1965, drilling is going on. We don't care about the health and welfare of the people. What is our name? You have too much money, and when you are to use it, a certain foreign country will tell you never. And so we have the resources, but then the resources is owned by animals. That's the way they see us. How can we accept that?
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
The 10th leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, on Valentine's Day sent a message to the lovers, supporters of the Biafra Republic agitation and the general public that he would remain in detention until impartial and unbiased judge take over the case of alleged terrorism filed against him by the federal government of Nigeria, narrating how the judiciary has been biased against him since years of his detention. In an open letter to the general public, the detained Biafra leader, who has continued his agitation for the declaration of Biafra Republic, stated below in quotes, "Greetings to all men and women of goodwill in Nigeria and elsewhere in the world. I have been compelled by the events of the past few days to take the unusual step of writing this open letter for the singular purpose of calling the attention of the general public to the serial executive and judicial fraud being perpetrated against me since my extraordinary rendition in 2021. The details are as follows. 1. In a judgment entered on the 1st of March 2017, the Federal High Court Abuja ruled that the IPOB is not an unlawful group. At the time, it received widespread publicity which can be verified from Vanguard.com/2017/03/Kanu-I. This landmark ruling, made by the court before it turned unjust, emanated in a criminal proceedings that required proof beyond reasonable doubt, and in which the federal government and my humble self presented our respective cases. Alas, instead of the federal government to go on appeal as the law mandated, if they are dissatisfied with the judgment, the former Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, went behind closed doors with a letter signed by late Abakari and got IPOB proscribed, tagged a terrorist group in an ex-parte proceedings conducted without notice to me or to the IPOB. This abominable incident was the earliest sign yet that the government and its judiciary have struck an unholy and fraudulent alliance to deny me my rights and thereby imperil the lives and liberty of millions who identity with IPOB. 2. On the 26th of October 2022, a federal high court declared my extraordinary rendition and detention as unconstitutional, stating that the manner of arrest and detention of the applicant, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, in Kenya, his continued detention in Abuja, his subjection to physical and mental trauma by the respondents, the inhuman and degrading treatment meted out to the applicant amounts to a brazen violation of the applicant's fundamental right to dignity of his person and threat to life under Section 34(1)(a) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended. The court further ordered the federal government to apologize to me and pay me compensation. In a responsible and well-ordered society, run by a responsible government, this judgment is sufficient to have ended my lengthy detention and encourage the federal government to constructively engage me on the issue of the self-determination agitation that triggered this whole saga. 3. Pedal back to the 13th of October 2022 when the Court of Appeal held that the courts must never shy away from calling the executive to order when they resort to acts of executive lawlessness. The duty of the courts is to maintain a balance between ensuring that law and order is obeyed and the protection of the individual from oppressive actions by the executive. By the forcible abduction and extraordinary rendition of the appellant, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, from Kenya to this country on the 27th day of June 2021, in violation of international and state laws, the lower court or indeed any court in this country is divested of jurisdiction to entertain charges against the appellant. Despite the clarity of this judgment and its comportment with reason, the federal government refused to release me from detention while it went behind closed doors and connived with 3 other justices of the Court of Appeal who fraudulently and swiftly sat on appeal over the judgment and practically destroyed it by issuing what they termed a stay of execution. One may then ask, is it not abominable for a court to stay a judgment the government already disobeyed? In a plethora of cases, the Supreme Court has held that anybody who disobeys a related court order cannot be given any judicial relief until such order is obeyed. This is a sound reasoning that applies to everybody but is fraudulently overlooked when it comes to my case. 4. Fast forward to the 15th of December 2023 when the Supreme Court sent back my case to the Federal High Court for trial. For avoidance of doubt, that was not the only decision the Supreme Court made. It also decided that my bail should not have been revoked, and it went on to state clearly that the judge exhibited significant and unacceptable bias by revoking my bail. In a sane society, one would expect that when the High Court received my case from the Supreme Court and hankered down for trial, it was also duty-bound to restore my bail in line with the pronouncement of the Apex Court. But that did not happen. Why? Well, your guess is as good mine, and that is, the court connived with the federal government to continue my detention in violation of Section 287 of the Nigerian Constitution while they plotted to railroad me through an unfair trial that already has a predetermined verdict. 5. On the 24th of September 2024, I decided that I have had enough of taking my chances at getting justice from a judge that, in June 2021, sent me to secret police detention without fair hearing, later refused to transfer me to prison to better prepare for my trial and capped it all by refusing to restore my bail and instead ordered an accelerated trial in the face of the reality that I will never get a fair trial whilst detained at the DSS. These are the major reasons that compelled me to request recusal of the judge, and having consented to it, she proceeded to make an order removing herself from my case. That order was never challenged on appeal, thus it remains extant to this day. But instead of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court to do the lawful thing by assigning my case to another judge, he connived with the federal government to eat crow and send my case to a judge that stands recused by a valid order. To conclude this open letter, let me make it clear that it should in no way be construed to mean that there are no decent judges in Nigeria that can be trusted to deliver even-handed justice in my case. That is not the issue. Instead, the issue is that my case is deliberately being shielded from judges and justices that are deemed to be committed to doing justice even when it means that the federal government must lose. Be that as it may, if it will take the rest of my life in detention to produce me before a proper and impartial court, so be it. But let me say this for the world to know, I will not succumb to any trial conducted by any judge or court whose jurisdiction does not pass constitutional muster. Not now, not ever. Thank you all. Signed by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, dated the 14th of February 2025. We had reported that Justice Binta Nyako of Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned indefinitely after the detained leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, as seen in a privileged video footage during February 10, 2025 court session, staged a resistance protest, insisting while confronting the judge face-to-face, including the prosecuting counsel, Ademwega Awomolo, that Justice Binta, who is an indigene of Katsina State, same state with former President Muhammadu Buhari, is biased. Saying, Justice Nyako, who had held a political position of Katsina State Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, that her court is not a court of law but a shrine of injustice, accusing the judge of poke-nosing with authorities to pass wrong judgment against him in order to be left off the hook by the federal government. Her son, Abdulaziz Nyako, and her husband, retired Vice Admiral Murtala Nyako, who was once Chief of Naval Staff, Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, pioneer former military governor of Niger State, 2 times governor of Adamawa State, who were impeached twice by Adamawa State House of Assembly for misconduct, one of the soldiers that fought against Biafra during Nigeria's civil war, a current member of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, who is facing corruption charges alongside his son in a criminal allegation filed before Court of Law since 2015 by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, over alleged cases of abuse of office, criminal conspiracy, theft and money laundering. We had October 2024 reported that the Chief Judge of Federal High Court in Nigeria, Justice John Tahama Soho, has rejected the verbal plea by the detained indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu, for the trial judge in the case, Justice Binta Nyako, to withdraw being the judge over the lawsuits. Justice Soho stated that Kanu's case was reassigned to Justice Nyako due to its prolonged nature, dating back to 2015. Given that Justice Nyako had handled the case for the most part, she was deemed the most suitable judge to see it through to its conclusion. However, the Chief Judge directed that if at the next hearing of the case, Kanu still insists on recusing Justice Nyako, he must file a written motion with an affidavit, stating all the grounds for requesting the recusal. We had reported in September 2024 that Justice Binta Nyako of Federal High Court sitting in Abuja have withdrawn from the case of the 10th Biafra leader, Nnamdi Kanu, after the trial could not commence following the Biafra leader's personal confrontation with the judge for the second time in the year. We had reported in May 2024 that, in a rare case in the history of legal proceedings in the world, Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, helped himself at the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja and played the role of a lawyer with full energy and vibrant command of words. With fearless loud voice defended himself with face-to-face confrontation with the trial judge, Justice Binta Nyako, and the Federal Government Prosecution Counsel, Adegboyega Awomolu. Kanu is being prosecuted by the federal government on a 7-count bordering on terrorism.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Men of the Nigeria Police Force, in line with the zeal of the Anambra State Governor, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, to wipe the state of apparent criminal fetish practice of Okite and the activities of some Ezewani largely believed to be responsible for cases of missing children, have arrested a medical doctor alongside his gang of child-stealing syndicate and rescued over 10 missing babies looking already malnourished in captivity at Onitsha area of the state. The police authority described the arrested medical doctor as fake, but the suspect alongside others were apparently not paraded for further independent investigations. The Anambra State Commissioner of Police, Ikeoye Orutugu, in a statement on Monday, called on all parents looking for their missing babies to come to the police command headquarters in Oka for identification if any of the rescued babies is theirs. The commissioner said that, "I am pleased to address you and Ndi Anambra today on yet another breakthrough on our commitment to protecting vulnerable children and combating human trafficking in the state." Police operatives attached to 323 Divisional Headquarters on an intelligence-led information investigation on the 15th of February 2025 arrested one Mr. Odinakachukwu Okori, male, Ifunanya Ogbonna, female, and a fake medical doctor Mr. Daniel Ikebilu, male, and rescued 10 looking malnourished children in an apartment in inland town Onitsha. The Divisional Police Headquarters have been monitoring one of the alleged suspects, Odinakachukwu, in the area on the receipt of a report on the 28th of July 2024 about a missing 6-year-old boy in the neighborhood. The operatives, having enough evidence, quickly arrested Odinakachukwu Okori on the receipt of the second complaint on the 13th of February 2025 of a missing 5-year-old girl in the same area. During interrogation, the suspect mentioned Ifunanya as part of the child-stealing syndicate. Further revelation led to the rescue of both children earlier reported missing and the arrest of Mr. Daniel Ikebilu, a fake doctor. Before, Odinakachukwu and Ifunanya confessed to have perfected their plans to flee with the 5-year-old girl to Abuja. Ifunanya also confessed to having sold the child 1 million naira to Mr. Daniel. The police, still acting on information gathered, further rescued 8 other children in an apartment in inland town, Onitsha. To this end, the command sought the assistance of the Anambra State government through the Ministry of Women's Affairs for custody, medical attention, and care to help the children recover from the ordeal. This achievement highlights the importance of community police collaboration and intelligence gathering in combating child trafficking. Lastly, the command calls on anyone looking for his or her child to come to Anambra State Police Command for necessary action and possible reunion to their parents, the Commissioner of Police, Ikeoye Orutugu, stated. We had reported that the monarch in Delta State, His Royal Highness, Epiphany Azinge, the Asajba of Asaba, has banned a particular group of female spiritual native doctors known as Ezewani from Asaba, the Delta State capital, following the kidnapping and subsequent killing of Anambra State lawmaker, Justice Chukwunenye Azuka, whose suspected killer's kingpin was traced to a shrine in Delta State. We had previously reported that the new Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Ikeoye Orutugu, visited the scene of crime to condole with the family of 3 siblings that were killed and kept inside the fridge at Uruwichi in Nnewi area of Anambra State while their mother was away for work at Ihiola. This as the state governor, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, with the deputy governor, Gilbert Onyekachukwu Ibezim, being the operational commander, always leading mostly indigenous team of special security operatives known as Agnekemba to invade and arrest babalawos or spiritual native doctors under the practice of Okit, a claimed spiritual practice of printing banknotes which investigations have since unraveled to be false, most especially as wrongly propagated by Nigeria movie industry, Nollywood, which human beings are seen in some of their movies to be vomiting banknotes as a sign of money ritual, although investigations have shown that there is no spiritual or ritual process that print banknotes but what criminally minded babalawos or spiritual native doctors do. is to prepare a charm known often in Igbo land as Okite to enable the applicants, including traders with legitimate businesses, to be able to start committing more crimes like internet frauds or yahoo, selling fake products, cheating customers, kidnapping, armed robbery, among other numerous inhuman crimes that met the applicants to get rich quickly. We had reported that the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB lawyer, Barrister Ifeanyi Ejiofor, has called out Anambra State Governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, over the arrest and detention of a well-known native doctor always on social media, Chidozia Nwangu aka Akwa Okukotiwara Aki, accusing the governor of violating the rights to religious practice of the suspect as guaranteed by Nigeria Constitution. This, as Governor Charles Chukwuma Soludo goes harder on Babalawos, which are spiritual native doctors fueling insecurity in the state, most especially those under the religious practice of Okite or Ezemanyi, that are widely believed to be responsible for the encouragement of people into kidnapping, organs harvesting, money rituals, specifically rampant cases of stolen babies and boyfriends killing girlfriends for money ritual purposes, with investigation indicating that some dangerous crimes in Anambra are committed by teenagers, minors or underage children, often misled and manipulated into the inhuman crimes by elderly ones, forcing the Anambra State government to enact a new law, that is that Homeland Security Law 2025, that came into effect on January 17, 2025, which banned anyone from advertising or showcasing on social media or any public place his or her supernatural powers to make people rich without any lawful means of legitimate business, forbids any spiritual native doctor from using their powers to perfect magical bulletproof for people to commit crime in the state, and strictly stipulated 25 years imprisonment with no option of fine for any spiritual native doctor that requires human parts or blood to administer charms or protection to anybody in the state.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, has debunked a claim as stated in a now viral video that its premium motor spirit, PMS, dries too fast when compared to PMS from Dangote Refinery, stating that the particular NNPC fuel refilling station where the individual went to buy the PMS in Lagos State for the experiment was supplied the fuel product by Dangote Refinery, insisting NNPC uses high-quality compositions to formulate its PMS and Dangote Refinery adheres to strict industry standard in producing fuels it supplied to customers. The person who conducted the experiment, as seen in the video, said he bought some quantity of PMS refined by Dangote from a private fuel refilling station and went to NNPC station in the area to purchase another quantity of PMS allegedly refined by NNPC for the experiment. The person, as seen in the video, poured the same amount of the two separate PMS products into two small generators and put on the two generators at the same time and set a timer to monitor how fast the PMS burns. According to him, he observed that the PMS allegedly produced by NNPC dried faster within 17 minutes and some seconds, while the PMS produced by Dangote lasted up to 30 minutes and some seconds. NNPC, in a press release made available on Saturday, said that the NNPC fuel station he bought the PMS from sourced its PMS from Dangote Refinery, describing the experiment as false and misleading allegations. The press release, titled "NNPC Refutes Misleading Claims in Viral Video," reads below thus. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, strongly refutes the false and misleading allegations made in a viral video circulating online, which claims that NNPC fuel does not last. This assertion is baseless and entirely unfounded, originating from unverified and amateur research that lacks credibility, accuracy, and professional oversight. NNPC Limited reaffirms that its fuel is carefully formulated with one of the best compositions, ensuring optimal efficiency, durability, and environmental sustainability for consumers. Furthermore, it is important to emphasize that a significant percentage of premium motor spirit, PMS, sold at NNPC retail stations in Lagos, where this deceptive video was created, is sourced from the Dangote Refinery, a strategic partner in promoting local production and energy security. Dangote Refinery adheres to strict industry standards, guaranteeing the quality of petroleum products supplied to our consumers. This misleading video represents yet another desperate attempt by economic saboteurs to misinform the public and tarnish NNPC Limited's reputation. We will not tolerate deliberate misinformation designed to undermine our operations and mislead Nigerians. Henceforth, NNPC Limited will take firm legal action against individuals or groups who intentionally spread falsehoods about our brand and operations. Those engaged in such malicious activities will be held fully accountable under the law. We urge the public to disregard such fabricated content and rely on verified sources for accurate information. NNPC Limited remains steadfast in its mission to ensure full availability, affordability, and quality for all Nigerians while maintaining global industry standards, said Olufemi Soler, Chief Corporate Communications Officer, NNPC Limited.
Is it true that Dangote's fuel lasts longer than others? Let's find out. I bought 2 brand new I Better Pass My Neighbor generators straight out of the box just for this experiment, so no stories. MRS petrol stations have a partnership with Dangote Refinery, meaning you can buy locally refined fuel from them. I went to their station at Alakpere, Lagos, and I got 1 liter for 925 naira. For the comparison, I also bought fuel from NNPC in Ojodubega, Lagos, and it cost 945 naira per liter. That's 20 naira more than the MRS fuel. Now, looking at both fuels, the Dangote fuel looks a little bit darker. For these small generators, you have to mix the fuel with engine oil before use, so I did exactly that for both of them. I filled both generators with the same quantity of fuel, turned them on, and set a timer. And after 17 minutes 51 seconds, the generator running on NNPC fuel died first. Meanwhile, the generator using MRS fuel kept running for 30 minutes. That's a 13 minutes difference, a big deal, especially when it's cheaper. So yeah, it looks like the Dangote refined fuel actually lasts longer than the fuel you get from at least NNPC. And again, it is cheaper. Oh God, it is called fuel, not fuel. Fuel. Now what for you?
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
M23 rebels have announced the takeover of South Kivu city of Bukavu in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and now in control of another major airport in the Kivu region, the Kavumu airport, after the secessionist armed fighters sacked Congolese soldiers and foreign mercenaries on Friday. Local observers said that Kavumu, a strategic location in South Kivu, hosts an airport that was used by the DRC's coalition forces to launch attacks on M23 positions. A video of M23 rebels mocking Congolese and its foreign coalition forces after capturing Bukavu was published online on Friday. The rebels had said that their intention is to advance to Kinshasa, the capital city of Congo, which is more than 1,500 kilometers from Bukavu, to change the government of President Felix Tshisekedi. Local media reported that the neighboring community of Morobo in central equatorial state of South Sudan has raised alarm of the likely effect of the crisis on the community, calling on its government to beef up security at the border town. There is a crisis in the DRC, and we are very much afraid that it may affect some parts of central Equatoria, and the activities of the M23 have displaced some people from Congo to parts of central Equatoria in Morobo, and if these activities continue, our border is very vulnerable. One of the resolutions is to request the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs to deploy forces along the border line to secure the border from encroachment, Paulino Lukudu Obede, Deputy Governor of Central Equatoria State, stated according to local media. Video showed Congolese and its coalition foreign soldiers fled and abandoned their weapons when Bukavu fell under the M23 rebels, with the abandoned military equipment seen at the entrance of Bukavu Airport, which included battlefield tanks. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republic of Congo's president, Felix Tshisekedi will not attend an African Union summit this weekend in Addis Ababa, the government spokesperson, Tina Salama said. The AU summit is focused on ending DRC's conflict with M23 rebels in the east. Prime Minister Judith Suminwa Tuluka is expected to represent the African nation at the event, Salama said on Friday. Fighting resumed in DR Congo a few days ago according to local media after the M23 announced ceasefire, but Congolese troops started pursuing M23 forces near the town of Ihusi in South Kivu province, as the anti-government group continues its advance after seizing Goma last month. We had reported that the United Nations, UN says dozens of inmates with more than 150 female prisoners alongside their babies were burnt alive on January 27, 2025 when some detainees at Munzenze prison in Goma set fire on the facility to escape after M23 advanced to take over the city, forcing prison guards to flee and shot dead many inmates. It would be recalled we had reported that, in a bitter reaction to the statement credited to South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa over the killing of 13 SA soldiers in Goma by M23 rebels, Rwanda President Paul Kagame has talked off over President Ramaphosa's description of Rwanda Defense Force, RDF, as a militia group working with M23 and the SA president's threat. Rachel M. commented on President Cyril Ramaphosa's social media post published, accused South Africa of being a party in the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who always launch offensive operations against M23 rebels, only trying to manipulate the public by thus falsely claiming to be a peacekeeper in a war the SA has joined hands to escalate. This, as hundreds of Romanian mercenaries contracted to fight against M23 rebels ceded or surrendered to M23 rebels in the presence of the rebels' spokesperson, Willy Angoma Ingoma, who was seen in videos warning and cautioning the Romanians never to come to Congo to fight against them before the Romanians were transported to Rwanda for further assistance to their country. We had reported that over 1,200 men of the Armed Forces of Democratic Republic of Congo have ceded or surrendered Goma, the country's largest city, to M23 rebels, with DRC military uniforms flooding the streets after the pulled of the army attires and took refuge at UN peacekeeping military base, leaving South Africa soldiers to continue to fight on. But South African military formation in Congo in a statement denying that its men did not surrender to M23 rebels, insisting that the white flag hoisted by one of his soldiers during heavy gun battle with the rebels was normal military tradition for both sides to cease fire to enable the South Africa troops passage to receive medical supply and as well give room to the M23 rebels the opportunity to rescue their men injured in front of the South Africa military base near Goma Airport. This, as thousands of pro-government protesters attacked and burned some portions of US, French, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and other foreign embassies in Kinshasa. We previously had reported that thousands of prisoners at Munzenze prison facility in Goma, the capital city of North Kivu province in the Democratic Republic of Congo, may have set themselves free after M23 rebels took control of Goma early morning hours, with videos posted online showing civilians flooding back to Goma and welcoming the M23 rebels in a rousing manner. Earlier same day, we also reported that one of the most troubled countries in Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo, government begged civilian residents in the country to flood streets on Monday the 27th of January 2025, just as M23 rebels are now in control of Goma, after killing the Congolese military commander, over 9 South Africa soldiers, a total of 12 UN peacekeepers, forcing other Congolese soldiers to surrender their weapons before the 3 a.m. Monday 27, 2025 deadline set. We had earlier in January 2025 reported that M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo early this year advanced and seized the town of Masisi. Same period, the Congolese government sent 172 death row prisoners to executioners, with 102 already confirmed executed, while the government kept mum on the third batch of 70 prisoners, including the May 19, 2024 37 coup plotters who were convicted and sentenced to death in September 2024, just as the country Minister of Justice, Constant Mutamba, threatened journalists with death penalty if they relate the activities of armed group he described as Rwanda Army and its M23 auxiliaries.
Osas Wakan Radio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.